Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Wait What We're Talking About podcast, episode 169. My name is Bret, aka Enigma9011, and you can catch the podcast live over on twitch.tv/Enigma9011. Just check it out over there. Usually live Sundays at 8 p.m. Eastern. You can join the chat, join on the conversation. We'd love to have you in on all the fun. But if you can't catch it live, that's A-OK. Go over to YouTube and podcast services the very next week where it's broken out topic by topic and put as one big video in MP3 for your amusement on the following Friday. Last but not least, any way you can help and support the show, whether it's likes, comments, shares, whatever it may be, reviews. It may seem small, but it helps the channel grow, helps the show grow. So we would love and appreciate you for that. So, another solo episode. Hello. And quite the dichotomy of topics today. We're going to be talking wrestling, and we're going to talk about Mario. So yeah, we got two very different topics today. Obviously, if one floats your boat more, go for that. But hopefully you're along for the ride. So let's start with wrestling, but more the wrestling video game side of things. We're going to be talking about WWE2K23. More specifically, we're going to be talking about their GM mode. If you're new to the show, the general manager mode, the GM mode, is pretty much the part that I've spent this year's game and last year's game, probably the most amount of time has been spent in this mode. So essentially what it is, it's kind of like a fantasy booking game mode. You're pitted against either a human player, computer players, whatever combination you may have, and you try and book better shows than your opponents in order to gain more fans, money, resources by the end of the year, and you will win or achieve milestones, goals along the way in victory. So with GM mode, it was prevalent in the SmackDown vs. Raw series from 2006, I believe, until 2008. Then, at least on the WWE side of things, GM mode kind of went away. AEW tried their hand at it with a mobile app, which was fun for a while. And then the mode finally returned with 2K22 and 23 being 2K's second attempt at the play style, the game mode, whatever you want to call it. And with their second attempt has come a lot of changes. Some good changes, some, I wouldn't say bad changes, but maybe some things that still weren't implemented or are missing from the mode. And I just kind of wanted to talk about the mode, really give it its flowers, because it is really good and it is really fun. And then just talk about maybe some changes or updates that I'd like to see, whether it comes from the team now in this year, or things they can adjust for 24 in the following year, in the following release that we can get. So let's talk about the changes that they have made with this year. And like I said, this is their second attempt. So they kind of learned what was good, what worked, what didn't work in 2K22 through their own gameplay, through up, down, downs gameplay, through obviously fan interaction. And they kind of tweaked, modified, and adjusted things to make this mode better overall, in my opinion. So first things first, which was probably the biggest surprise, is the mode went from a 2-player mode, whether it was you or a person or you against the AI, to a 4-player mode. So that was a huge surprise that now you can play with three of your friends if you want to, whether it's online, or sit together on a couch, or you could play against multiple AI. There could be any combination of it. Obviously, you don't have to do the full 4. You could still do 2. You could do 3, whatever combination you do want. And it adds just a whole nother layer of chaos into the game mode. Circling back to the SmackDown vs. Raw series, when it was available in 06 and 07, it was only that 2-player mode, so one person was Raw, one person was SmackDown, and you would go against each other that way. When they implemented it in 2008, they added the ECW brand, or the third brand, or not the third brand, the, what am I thinking of? The rehash of ECW that everybody's got their own opinion about. But they added that to 2008 because the ECW was like heavily featured in that game. So you had the 3 there. And at least by those standards, it made the game way more difficult because the CPU and the algorithm and all that stuff just was very difficult to kind of manage. not from a gameplay standpoint. Everything ran smoothly. Just as a player, like, I don't know, maybe it's just my personal experience with it, get thrashed all the time. So with this one, just adds another layer of chaos. Obviously, if you're playing with your friends, you can have more involved into the story or into the game mode, which just makes it more fun. Whether, once again, it is that online setting or that couch setting, just goofing around, having a blast, booking your shows, and whatnot. So with the option now for players, we do also get a few more GMs, and we do get, I think, a show or two added into the selection for your show. So you still do have Raw, SmackDown. Those are going to be your staples. Unfortunately, we lost NXT UK. That did kind of shut down this past year, so that makes sense. But you do have NXT Black and Gold. You have NXT 2.0, and then you now have WCW added as well. As for GMs, we kept Adam Pearce, Sonya Deville, Stephanie McMahon's still in there. We lost William Regal, but he'll probably be back. I don't know how contracts work in his video game stuff, so he could be an update. As 2K23 did last year with a free update to GM mode, or he'll be next year. I think Shane McMahon's still an option. You now have new GMs in Kurt Angle, Mick Foley, Eric Bischoff, Xavier Woods, and Tyler Breeze. You can still use a custom superstar as well. So a plethora more of characters that you're able to choose from. Similar to last year, all with their power-up cards that are specific to them that you can't get any other way, and same with the shows from there. So cool additions there as more options become available, obviously, to players, changes things up, modifies it to make it more hectic and whatnot. In terms of their cards, I think for the most part, their cards stayed the same. There were a few that swapped, as well as the regular generic cards, which we'll talk about after, that they implemented in the game. There's a lot of new ones there and modifications. I think shows as well, those stayed the same. So Raw still, Vito's 3 stars. SmackDown, I believe, still is morale. No, SmackDown, what was SmackDown? I think SmackDown's morale. Maybe that was Sonya. NXT still championship matches are boosted once. NXT 2.0, which is a new show, allows you to buy 3 free agents at half off. WCW is a legend. I think you add 5 weeks onto their contract. And as for the GM, Stephanie McMahon still has her double money. Creed and Breeze have some crazy ones. Tyler Breeze will allow you to add 20 stamina to all of your members of your roster, which is clutch. Woods, you can steal a superstar from another show as long as they're not a champion, I believe. That might be random. No, I think you can pick who you steal. But that one's crazy, the cheat code card. Bischoff has something with money related. Foley injures, I think, 2 opposite or opposing superstars on a brand you select. And then Kurt Angle kind of got the short end of the stick, in my opinion. He gets 1 free week of charity promos. Their results may be boosted, but I could be remembering that wrong. So we got some interesting cards in play for them. Breeze has been the one that I've particularly kind of gravitated towards so far in my gameplay, whether it's been offline or on stream. Just that stamina card is really powerful in my opinion, just because your superstars do get so tired over time, and that's kind of a nice reset, rehash, whether you're halfway through the season or at some point where you need to really build up to kind of keep your lead or catch up. That one's been awesome. I'd be curious to see how hectic Xavier Woods or Austin Creed's card can be. That one seems like a more arcadey style, especially if you're playing with friends. Just be like, oh, you son of a bitch, you stole, whoever. As you could in the older games where superstars would reach out to you and you could, negotiate with them, steal them. Still happens in this game, but I feel it's a little bit less often that does come up in the emails. which we'll talk about later. So let's stick with cards. Let's talk about the new cards that they did add into the gameplay. So the power cards, as they're called, are kind of like modifiers that you can use throughout the season, throughout the games, to help you or to help your show or to help you kind of sabotage the other players. So they're, for example, if you're going to sabotage other players, you can make their match types or arena booking cost double. You can veto certain superstars so they're unable to be used that week. You veto champions. You can, I feel like there's another one. Those are the big three. And then there's other ones that can make you better. So whether it's contract negotiations, you add contracts to superstars to lengthen their contract, kind of weighing off renewing it and buying it. You can add different match boosts or ratings boosts to certain match types, Hell in a Cell, Steel Cage, whatever it may be. Free advertising, free book or arena, those all stay there. Some new ones that I mentioned, kind of, or at least alluded to. There are new match types, which is very nice. We do now have multi-man matches, thank goodness. Not that I use them all that much, but it is nice to have the option if you just need to throw people in there into a match. So you do now have triple threat, you do now have fatal four-way, and they also added a plethora of different match types, from a backstage brawl to a steel cage to a tornado tag to a submission match, which I would say is probably the biggest addition, just because of what that certain match type allows you to do or the bonus you get from it. So different match types from 22 were branded pay-per-view match types. So if you used it during a pay-per-view, you would get a little bit bonus, whether it was fans, reception, your show ranking, quality, whatever it may be. And in this game, they still have that, where they have the branded show bonuses for this certain match, Extreme Rules for Extreme Rules, something simple like that. But in this one, the newer match types also have different factors that kind of play into it. So I believe, don't quote me on all these ones, but like one match type gets you 10,000 fans, but can up the chances for an injury. Or if it's a last man standing match, the winner will get morale, the loser will lose morale. If it's a submission match, which is the most, I would say, clutch in terms of an additive that they added from 22 into 23, a big concept of the game is rivalries. It's pretty much your bread and butter. You want to establish rivalries throughout the 4 weeks that you're building to a pay-per-view. And at the pay-per-view, you want to blow off that rivalry or kind of have it come to its conclusion. Rivalries that are level 3, rivalries that are level 4 will finish, quote unquote, at that pay-per-view, and your fans will show up, show out for it, quality will go up because there's that conclusion to the story. Sometimes, whether it's your own build or player interference or computer interference, where superstars are vetoed or they're hurt, whatever it is, outside factors or inside factors nonetheless, sometimes don't allow you to finish the stories there. And in 22, you could get trapped in a cycle where, okay, I built Edge and Seth Rollins in a stage 4 rivalry. We're going to pay it off at Hell in a Cell. Oh, this player was aggressive and they played it, so Seth, who's my champion, cannot participate in this match. And his rivalry with Edge can't be paid off. And you'd be stuck until the next pay-per-view, let's say it's SummerSlam, for another 5 weeks of trying to maintain this rivalry, which, granted, could be easy. You just don't book them if it's a stage 4 because there's no higher that they can go. But the payoff is their popularity is going to take a dive because they're not on TV. So what do? You can do run promos. You can still attempt to keep the rivalry alive with call-outs or matches, but you run the risk of that rivalry going sour with your audience, where they just don't care, they're not as invested, and then your return on investment later on is not going to be as well because, well, they're sick of seeing this match 800 times, i.e., or a la a Brock Lesnar Roman Reigns. We don't need to see that 20 times. So you could run the risk of that, or the gambit with that in 22. And in 23, with the additions of the submission match, allegedly, we've had some problems with it. Hopefully that bug gets fixed. But with a submission match, you can end a rivalry at any time. So obviously, whether it's a pay-per-view or it's a regular week-to-week show, you book your superstars in a submission match, or whatever rivalry they're at, whether it's a 4, whether it's a 2, whatever it may be. Allegedly, at the end of the match, the rivalry will end. It will conclude. And with it concluding, whatever your level your rivalry is, 2, 3, 4, maybe even 1, you will gain 10,000 fans per level of rivalry for concluding. So you have a level 3, there's 30,000 fans right there, and that rivalry is concluded, so you can move on from there. So it's a really nice tool that they did add that is great, because once again, you're not stuck in this booking hell because of an offensive card played. Granted, part of the strategy, but it is nice for the user to have that flexibility of like, okay, I get it, I gotta adapt, and I go on to the next thing, instead of just this constant, not downhill, but it doesn't feel like it gives you a chance to have that rebuttal in terms of strategy. So the addition of the submission match, along with the others, clearly, but the rivalry ender, huge, in my opinion. Also another thing that makes it nice if you just happen to have more rivalries than the 5 allotted for pay-per-view matches. If you were doing really well and maybe you spread out the wealth and somehow you got 6 to 7 rivalries, if you're really crazy, going at the same time as backups or whatever, you can finish those rivalries off. It can boost your regular shows and kind of make it a little bit more flexible, organic when you need to move certain pieces because of stamina, because of rivalries, because of contracts even. Whatever it might be, you can be flexible with it. Granted, your planning is there and present, but very cool that they added that and at least gave that option to players to end it. Another addition that they made was the mid-card titles. So in last year's edition, you had access to both world titles for the men's and women's rosters. And then with the first patch, I believe it was the first patch, they added the tag titles into the game mode. Great, because it actually gave tag team wrestling meaning in booking and not just like, I don't know, I'm filling this spot. The tag titles were added. Unfortunately, the mid-card titles were not. So in 23, they have added those in. So we have US for Raw, Intercontinental for SmackDown, you have the Hardcore for WCW, NXT, both brands I believe have the North American. So nice to have another title that you can kind of implement into your storylines if you would like to there. So now you have a chance of 5 titles on the line. Men's World, Women's Tag, Men's Tag, and your mid-card title. It's great. So adds a little bit more spice and excitement to your matches if you decide to book it that way. Let's see. And then a few more additions that they have made. I kind of alluded to emails earlier where, people in the old games, you could steal roster members and stuff like that if you wanted to be chaotic. Emails are pretty much the same from last year. However, they have added some variety there as well. It seems like superstars can get a little bit more pissed quickly if things are not going their way in terms of morale. There's a little bit more of, consequence would be the right word. If maybe the booking's not right or you're not listening to your superstars, they'll just either up and leave and quit their contracts, or they're really trying to haggle you for money, whether it's a bonus, whatever it might be. So you get a little bit more, chaos is the best word, at least variety, where it isn't just same old week after week and it's kind of autopilot. There are things that you need to watch out for, with the morale being a little bit more important in terms of emails and those factors coming in terms of like, oh, well, I just lost Otis because he doesn't want to be part of my brand anymore. And those adjustments need to be made. There are a few more examples, too, of some interesting factors that play into GM mode in the emails. I haven't seen it too much, so it may be far and few between. But twice, there's been an email about I think it's like a physical therapist coming in, and you can pick 2 superstars, and they will work with them for, I think, a week or 2, and it will like boost their stamina or recover a lot of stamina if you choose to, or you have the freedom to choose one superstar from that email or none of them, whatever you'd like to do. So I've run into that twice. And then there's been another one about a movie deal that I happened to get on stream. There was a superstar that was really popular, and Hollywood came calling, and they're like, oh, we want you to be in this movie. But the superstar, you could let the superstar do the movie for 3 weeks, 4 weeks. I don't recall. And if you let them do the movie deal, you get like $1 million, and you have the chance of their popularity going even higher. But obviously you get the choice. If you're like, oh no, I really need this superstar around, you can deny those, or obviously if you think you can be flexible with it, let them go and do that. I'm curious to see what other emails there are, see what other factors do come into play, if they do have any crazy stuff like that. There's been a few other ones too where like a random Joe Schmo will be like, oh, I'm a social media influencer, hire me for free and I'll boost your fans and whatever. And it's like, is this a scam? But it must add something to it. So I'm interested to see what other emails do come into play, and not being, at least at this point, because it's still relatively new. I know the game released a few weeks ago, but it got to a point in 22 where it was like, oh, this email means they want a main event. Oh, this one means they want a bonus. And we're going to get that as well in 23. It just still, at this moment, feels fresh, unique, because it's new. So I'll be interested to see if there are other emails and what factors they will have into playing into the game and the strategy we'll have to make going forward. And then I would say the last big change that is great, similar to the submission match where it just was like, this was a really big pro in terms of building the game mode or, fleshing it out, is multiple seasons. Now, when they first announced it, from our knowledge, because we can only go off what we know of like the previous titles with SmackDown versus Raw, this meant, oh, they're going to allow us to play multiple years out, which is kind of a yes and kind of a no. So in 22, you had the option. You could play 15 weeks, like 25 weeks, and 50 weeks. And if you played 50 weeks, it was the whole calendar year, minus those 2 weeks. I don't know what happens off season. And you could play it Mania to Mania. Great. In this year's, it's still Mania to Mania, but its only seasons are only 25 weeks or 25 shows. And you book the 4 weeks, you get a pay-per-view, and I believe there's 5 of them. That's how math works. So you book Mania to Mania that way, and that is your first season. And your game can go, I think, 10 seasons. It may be unlimited. I haven't gotten to that point, so I'm not sure. But let's say hypothetically 10 seasons. So you're doing 10 years worth of this game in one continuous playthrough. In 22, it was regardless of what length you picked, you played it, you got to the end, and it was like, this is conclusion, finish, put a pin in it, we're done. With this year and the multiple seasons, it allows you to keep playing. Sometimes you really get the momentum going right at the end. You're like, I'm losing everything, or it's over, so I can't do anything with it. And with this addition of multiple seasons, it makes it continuous. So even if that, you had a rough start, you could claw back, you can make something new, and push forward from there. Because sometimes with the 22's version, like, there's a lot to learn. How do I get fans? How do I book things correctly? The drama curve, this, that, the other thing. With the multiple seasons this year, it allows the players kind of to adjust a little bit better. However, another exciting change with the multiple seasons, which granted, I could see both sides of the argument, but to me it's a lot of fun. From season 1, you go Mania to Mania. You do your normal draft your 11 superstars, 12 superstars, whatever it is. Draft them, those are your permanent roster members. Then just like the previous title, you can get free agents, you can get legends, great. You book them through that first season. Once the season concludes, the game is going to see, okay, who's in top, let's say if there's 4 players. Who's in first, second, third, fourth. The season concludes, there's a winner based on those rankings, and you are able to keep certain superstars. Your roster is wiped. So if you're in first place, you get to keep 3 of your superstars. Second, you get 4. Third, you get 5. Fourth, you get 6 superstars. So depending on your ranking, 3, 4, 5, and 6 people you get to keep, re-sign, depending on morale and who you pick. You will have the option of more than 3. It will give you maybe 9 to 11 superstars that do want to stay. And you can pick from them depending on where you placed, how many you keep. Then from there, you do a whole nother draft. And it's based on how the previous season went. So what I mean by that is, if I had Johnny Gargano on my roster and I boosted him up, he was North American champion, he got really popular at the time, but his stamina was a little low or something like that. I think it's just based on popularity because of the season, it kind of refreshes stamina. If I boosted him up and got him popular, his contract will be more expensive come the draft if I didn't re-sign him in that initial picking. And you'll see that across the board with the draft of like, how did Raw book their superstars? How did SmackDown book their superstars? How did whatever? And you'll see that fluctuation of a chart or the roster depending on where they are. So the people who went undrafted the entire time may be towards the lower end and be cheaper superstars. Or if you want these people who are quote unquote established to kind of help yourself in the next season, who are more popular, who are going to gain more fan notice, you can get them at a higher investment. So it adds a whole nother layer of it of like, oh crap, I really want XYZ superstar, but they're taking $300,000 for the whole year. That's a lot of money. and you do that because you want the popularity, but maybe your initial roster size is smaller because of the cost of everyone else. Or you can go the opposite route and draft the less expensive superstars, but then you got to do the whole thing again of building them up and getting popularity and stuff. It's just a really cool feature, which with, Papa Griff and I playing, for example, last year, we played so many different versions of the game based on our choice. We actually completed campaigns, or unfortunately, freaking campaigns crashed on us. I can't tell you how many times we got to the first pay-per-view on a 50-week gameplay and just shit itself. We did a lot of drafts. We always enjoyed the variety of it, of like just mixing it up and which superstars we would have or wouldn't have, either in the draft pool or on our teams. So it's an exciting time when it does come to the draft of seeing who is there. So I do enjoy the multiple seasons. I enjoy the curveball of the redraft, and adding some variety there is very exciting. So multiple seasons, great. We haven't had any crashes or scares yet, so I'm glad they figured out those bugs as well. And yeah, just it's been a good time with multiple seasons. Before I move on to the cons, I do want to shout out one other change that they did make for WWE2K23 in their GM mode. And this is an option that you can play around with. You don't have to play with it. But so far through my playthroughs, we have had it on just because, once again, it's another variety thing and kind of makes it a little bit more arcadey in a terms of like an excitement way and not just a simulation type thing. is the shakeup cards. So at the end of each pay-per-view, you do your matches, you have a great time, you hopefully get good results and the things you want. You will have the option at 3 shakeup cards, and these are ranked in bronze, silver, and gold cards. They're similar to the power-up cards, but they only appear at this time, and they have 3 different time periods. They either have a match length, so for the next 10 matches, blah. They either happen instantaneously, or they happen throughout the rest of the season. So depending on what you choose, these shakeups are kind of nuts. There's some that recoup 75 stamina for a superstar. There's some where you book a certain superstar of your choice in a match, you get 10,000 money every match they participate in. There's some where take your most popular superstars and bring them down to a 65, and then 6 random people will get boosted up to 85 or something like that. They're all really like obscure and crazy. And it's just, once again, it's another layer that just makes it so much fun. And in terms of strategy, it's like like trying to figure out what puzzle pieces you want to use in terms of your strategy, your plan, whatever it is. It's exciting. I don't know if there's a way where you can see, if you're playing against AI, like what they have chosen. You may be able to do that in the new GM assistant, like kind of thing you can check out, but I'm not 100% sure. But it's another cool layer into the gameplay. Like I said, it is also optional. Options are always great, depending on how crazy you want to get, how hardcore, I guess, you want to get. But the shakeups, in terms of my opinion, another fantastic addition. Just like I said, the crazy, not stipulations, but factors or way things can kind of play out depending on what you choose, is there. And the thing is, too, with the 3 cards, with the ranking system, you're not guaranteed to get like, a bronze card, a silver card, and a gold card. You could get 3 bronze and be like, well, I guess I'm picking this. So another fun addition there. So let's talk about the cons, or at least the downsides of this year's and kind of last year's GM mode. There's not too much, so I don't want to be like, this is the worst thing ever. But there's a few things in terms of user experience, I guess you could say, that could be a little bit better. And I mentioned the multi-man matches. Very, very happy they added it. And like, from my personal experience, haven't used them much, but knowing that you have, once again, the option to book a triple threat if you want to, or book a fatal 4-way and still build rivalries from them, is great. The only downside so far, based on launch, in those multi-man matches, you cannot book any titles to be defended. So whether it's a world title or a mid-card title, those cannot be defended. So a little disappointing. I hope they patch that in where, they can do something like that. It would just be nice, especially for if the beginning, you need to establish who your North American, your IC, your US championship is. And if you want to have it where I don't know who I want my champion to be, and kind of, get that random element into the game a little bit more and then build off of that, would be fun. Rivalries are still only 1-to-1 or tag to tag, so at least in terms of rivalries, I get why they wouldn't do the world titles on the line between Cody Rhodes, Seth Rollins, and Finn Balor. Like, if only 2 of them are feuding, and then the belt goes to the 3rd guy, and then your rivalry's not screwed, but at least loses the title mechanic. I guess that's also your booking. You could have just not done that. But it would be a nice thing to have. Once again, options. So a small thing there. You still can't look at your past results. So if you wanted, after your match results all go through, you're booking, and then you're like, oh crap, who won the last match? If you're not super crazy and write every little detail down, you can't go back and look at match results. You can't go back and look on statistics of like where your show did well, what your show didn't do well, what your fan gain was, what your monetary gain was. You can't go back, look at these results and be like, oh, this worked, this didn't work, and go from there. A little disappointed in that, but granted, second crack at it. Maybe things will change down the way. Contract lengths. With the draft, we know those people who we have drafted. We know they're permanent, quote unquote, not really. We know they're permanent for the season. It would be nice to know once you're re-signing free agents or legends. They always come to you and like, hey, my contract's up at the end of the week, and if they decide to stay, I would take $91,000 to stay and sign a new contract. Great. How long is that contract? Is it, from my understanding, it's just like, okay, let's say I sign Carmelo Hayes for 10 weeks. 10 weeks comes up, he wants a new contract. To my understanding, based on last year's title, it's another 10 weeks I'm signing him to, but it would be nice at least to know, like, during that email process, because maybe I have a lot of re-signees, whatever it is. It would be nice to know, okay, he wants $91,000. That $91,000 is for 5 weeks, 10 weeks, whatever it might be. I assume it's the same amount of contract length as what I hired him as, but it's just a tiny little thing that would help the user experience overall, in my opinion. And then last but not least is the trophy system. So with the multiple seasons, they kind of have added a trophy system and a Hall of Fame goal for you as a GM. You need to get 10 trophies, and then you qualify, I think, for the Hall of Fame status. And that's overall how you win. And that's fine. I like the additives of the GM challenges, another way to get power cards, and then get so much revenue, get so much fans, different ways to get these trophies. But the trophies outweigh everything. Usually with GM modes of the past, along with last year, fans outruled everything. If I have 3 million fans and my opponent has 2.75 million fans, whatever it is, you know what I'm getting at, I would be winning because I have more fans. It doesn't work that way in this game. It all comes down to trophies. So as long as I have more trophies than my opponents, it doesn't matter that the person in third has more fans than the person in first. And while I get it, because that's this year's objective is the Hall of Fame status, I wish that was either a little bit more clear that trophies are the end-all be-all, or somehow they could like average out or kind of equate the fans still into the victory overall. I guess fans do equate in terms of like how many overall fans you got with the GM challenges or the lifetime challenges, but they kind of almost fall second fiddle when trophies mean everything. So you could just put all of your focus into your GM challenges. Granted, that's only one trophy for doing the 5 GM challenges each season, but that strategy or that focus kind of is more on that. And those challenges can be anything. Book 8 normal matches, book 5 backstage brawls, gain so much revenue or have so much revenue in your bank. It's a wide variety of things that can be easy or cannot be easy. But it's weird that takes all of the focus instead of maybe the drama curve or your fan growth. I don't know. Maybe it is balanced enough, and I've just noticed that the trophies are big, but I don't know. Maybe it kind of coincides or like is more symbiotic, for lack of a better term, than I think it is. But I've just noticed that the trophies outweigh everything. And in terms of playing catch-up, it can be a little difficult. Not saying impossible or complaining of like, oh, I got to strategize better or it's not easy enough. No, it's just one of those things you're like, okay, I lost a season. And because person first won the season, they get an additional trophy. It's like, okay, I'm playing catch-up. How do I do it? Like, I got to figure out a way to get more trophies while being down 1 or 2 trophies already because of the season win, whatever it may be. It's interesting factor to think about. So while I like the multiple seasons, the trophies, I like them. It's just not a hindrance, but something to be aware of, I guess, in terms of like, oh, that's what I should have actually been aiming for, I guess, this entire time, and go from there. And then to wrap up the topic, the discussion, I know we're talking a lot about this mode. I just love it. It's a lot of fun. That's the thing overall. This mode is a lot of fun. I want that to be known. Some other changes I would make, Papa Griff and I talked about this. Like, the addition of the new GMs is great. We just want more, once again, options. Add ECW in there. Why not? You added WCW obviously this year. Add ECW in there. Add Paul Heyman as a GM. You get Teddy Long in there. I'm not sure if we want Laurinaitis in there. Probably not. But I'm just thinking of who's been past GMs. AJ Lee would be cool, but that's never going to happen. Vicky Guerrero's a little bit on the right now in terms of recent and recording. But that's another option. I get why you're not going to have Triple H in there. You could add HBK in there, especially next year with him doing, the NXT now and GMing down there. That would be a cool addition. I guess all in all, it just comes down to the power cards. What do you figure out, or how do you factor in those? What's new? What's exciting? For ECW, obviously, you can kind of throw in the extreme aspect in there. Maybe stipulation matches for 1 week get you a higher rating or fan interaction. That could be something compared to the charity and the money for 1 week or the network deal. So that's, hey, there you go, 2K. ECW, for 1 week, any stipulation matches get a small boost. That's pretty good. Obviously, you got the regular power cards of one specific match gets the boost. This one can be every match, similar to NXT's, where every championship match gets the free boost. There you go. I don't know in terms of other shows what they would do besides ECW. You had NXT UK, but now with that being kind of kaput, you could have it, because obviously ECW and WCW aren't around anymore. Do you really go balls to the wall, put a Velocity in there, or Main Event? Obviously that's still a thing. Superstars, or Sunday Night Heat. You could, just have some fun with it. But yeah, you could have some fun with that. Maybe you could put Flair as a manager. I know he was Raw's for a little while. But just more characters, more options. We joked about Regal earlier. He'll make his return probably next year. So that would be something. And then I would say just one more change that I want, and it's another one of like user friendliness and just makes things better. Rivalries are great. It's a fun way to book it, make stories, whatever. Tag teams get the short end of the stick. Similar to 22s, where the tag titles were not initially involved until that first patch, where the tag titles got involved both for men's and ladies. In terms of rivalries, there's still no way, and I think I had this criticism last year, there's still no way to build tag rivalries other than matches. There needs to be a way to build that rivalry in the promo section. The call out is a great tool to use in promos. John Cena calls out Brock Lesnar. There's an opportunity to boost that rivalry a level, or if it's a steel cage match, by 2 levels now. Another great addition. Tag teams don't have that available to them. The steel cage is obviously still an option, granted, but there's no call out for tag teams. If you do Judgment Day, Finn Balor, Damian Priest against Imperium, Giovanni Vinci, and Ludwig Kaiser, you can do a call out promo of Finn to Giovanni, but they're going to start their own single rivalry. It's not going to be a Judgment Day versus Imperium and they build. We need that for tag rivalries. I don't want to say it's too difficult, but just giving the option, giving the tool to allow the player to grow that rivalry similar to any other rivalry, I think needs to be added. even if it's an option of like, once again, the same example, Finn calls out Giovanni. That's fine. You can only do the one-to-one interaction there. Give us an option of like, okay, Finn is calling out Giovanni. Do you want this for a singles rivalry or a tag rivalry? You autofill tag teams based on our booking already. You can kind of use the AI smart programming, whatever the hell you are using, to autofill those tag teams already for us. If you really needed to and you are able to do it, just have us pick all the superstars too. Like Finn and Damien call out Imperium, Checkaroo, you know. It books way more superstars. If you do obviously do the two calling out the other two, it takes up 2 slots, but that just comes down to the player of making those adjustments, using that strategy. If that is what is required of the player. Okay, you want this tag rivalry to build. You unfortunately can't use these 2 superstars anywhere else besides the call-out promo. Something like that. It would just be very helpful for us. So yeah, I think those are just some changes I want to see. We already talked about the mid-card titles, multi-man matches, stuff like that. But all in all, 2K23 and the additions they have made to GM mode is fantastic. I loved 22's mode, just obviously being a return from, you know, the SmackDown vs. Raws of old, and being 2K's first attempt at it. Out of, oh boy, I have no idea how many hours, probably 100, something like that, of 22. Probably 3/4 of that was GM mode, and based on the 30 to 40 hours I've played of 23 so far, probably 95% has been GM mode so far in terms of playtime. It's a great mode. I love playing it, whether it's solo and just playing against AIs or playing against, you know, friends and family and the chaos that will ensue there. It's a great time. It's a great mode. I know it's not for everybody, but I love that it's made its return. I love watching other people play it. Shout out Top Up Down Down. Having them go against each other and seeing the excitement there. I just want the game mode to, you know, keep building, keep adjusting, keep growing to the next level, and just be a fun time. Yeah, so GM mode, everybody. I love it. I love it. So let's flip a 180 here in the whole dichotomy of topics, as we alluded to. Let's talk about the Super Mario Bros. Movie. We just literally, as of recording, got done with the movie as of right now. A couple hours ago. Yes, don't worry. We are going... So, yes, hello. Welcome to the movie review section alert thingy. We're just going to do a general overview of the movie in terms of thoughts, feelings, excitement level, all that stuff. General thoughts. Once we get to the section where we're going to dump everything out of my brain in terms of what happened in this film, spoilers, etc., there will be a clear warning for everyone who does not want to be spoiled on this film and wants to go see it in their own leisure. We'll let you know. Then you can come back and be like, Bret, you are so right, that was great. Or Bret, you are so stupid, that was dumb. Then, you know, you can do it at your own leisure and do that. But, Super Mario Bros. Okay, so, what did I think of this movie? I thought the movie was a lot of fun, to be honest. It was a great time. This is kind of a movie of two what am I thinking? 2 ideas, storytelling, I don't know, whichever you want to call it. There's movie A, where it's Illumination, which Illumination does phenomenal work in terms of their animation style, their artwork, their presentation. You have the Illumination, this is a kids movie, kids are going to be having fun with this film. Enjoyment, you know. Turn off your, well, kids to turn off your brain. That's kind of hand in hand. It's a kids movie at heart. You got that, and then you have the other thing where this is for, you know, the people who grew up playing Mario, whether it's Super Mario Bros., whether it's, what was it, Jumpman, whatever he was against Donkey Kong throwing the barrels, to the Super Mario 64, to the Mario Karts, to the Super Mario Galaxy, to the hardcore, quote unquote, the Nintendo fans. It's a case of two movies here, and I think it succeeds very well in both facets. The movie's a lot of fun. The story's very simple, but it works. It's short and sweet. It's about an hour and a half. Not too long. Doesn't overstay its welcome. And it looks gorgeous. Highly recommend anyone and everyone sees it. It's a good time. Like I said, nice little balance of what you can get out of this experience in terms of just like, I want something that looks great and checks the box of the story, or if you're the fan of video games and you want to be quote unquote rewarded for that. I think the voice cast is great. Well, maybe not great. Is good. I think Jack Black does very well as Bowser. I think Charlie...
Oh, shit, that was Jack Black.
That was Jack Black, yeah.
Sorry.
No, you're good.
Podcast.
You're good. Anna Taylor-Joy does very well as Peach. Yeah. Charlie Cox does very good as Luigi. And now Charlie Cox from Sunny in Philadelphia.
Oh, shit.
And now everybody's review that you've been waiting for. It's a Chris Pratt. He did fine. He was okay. It wasn't anything that broke the bank. As we get into spoilers, I'll talk a little bit more about his portrayal. But it was good. It was a good time. Keegan-Michael Key is Toad, a little weird, but he did fine. He was a good support character. Key and Peele, not Spooky Man, the other one.
Yeah. Wow, I didn't know. Wow.
Yeah. But general, I guess, final thoughts. It was good. Lady, do you want to give your general thoughts? Because you're...
It was good.
Okay.
I enjoyed it. It was, I can see why it got not great critical reviews.
Right.
And also got very good viewer reviews.
Mm-hmm.
I can see why.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, storytelling is nothing breaking the bank. It's a very simple story, and it just checks the box. You're not going to be, I don't know, pushed to your limits with the story, or like really walk away with it like, this was an amazing film. Like, it's...
It's fun, and like, if you played Mario games as a kid, it's like fun to have the songs come in.
Sure. Yeah, audio's great.
Songs, the audio's good. Like, it's pretty much like an hour and a half of like fun Easter eggs.
And then, good times. No spoilers yet.
I just said Easter
what? No spoilers! So our general review. It's a good time. It's fun. I recommend you check it out. We are now going into spoiler territory. So, if you haven't watched this film yet and you don't want to be spoiled, this is your chance to leave, exit. There's the door. I love you. Thanks for hanging out. Goodbye. Make sure you guys sub and follow all the podcast feeds. And come back and listen to this later when you're done. Okay. We are starting spoilers in 3, 2, 1. Oh my God, they killed Superman in this movie. Oh my God, that's a joke I stole from somebody else. Okay, anyways.
Oh boy.
Movie's really cool. There are so many Easter eggs in this film that are very cool. Like Lady mentioned, the music especially. You had overworld themes. You had the... when they're going... We're going to be jumping around the plot here, so there's no following of story here. When they went underground to save Brooklyn, they had the underground theme in their pipes there. You had variations of victory themes when you're like finishing the level, and a lot of orchestral stuff. Very like subtle, but not subtle if you know the themes. And it was like, oh, that's a cool way that they adjusted it. So the music was great. Characters galore that they had in this film. So obviously, as we saw from trailers, Mario, Luigi, Peach, Toad, Donkey Kong, Bowser, the Koopas, whether they're, Magic Koopa or Turtle Koopa, Winged Koopa, the Goombas, the Spiny Shells, Piranha Plants. Shy Guys were not shown in the trailer, but we got Shy Guys. They were spooky as all hell. Dry Bones. We had, and then, you had the deep dive characters of, if you didn't play games or really know. So you had, I believe, the original Mario actor as Jumpman, as his grandpa, who always went Yahoo and jumped. I think that was him. Speaking of Jumpman, they also had a Jumpman arcade cabinet in the pizza shop that their parents owned. So before I continue, the story is the Mario Bros are actual plumbers from New York City, Brooklyn, and they get transported to the Mushroom Kingdom via a green magical pipe in the ground. I know, weird. But, so, their parents' pizza restaurant, which was Punch-Out Pizza, another reference to Mike Tyson's Punch-Out. They had the Jumpman arcade cabinet. I believe, I don't know if Bubble Bobble was there. I thought I saw the little dinosaur dude. I think there was another video game reference somewhere around there, and I'm kind of hating myself that I don't remember it, because I saw it and I was like, oh. Different characters. You had Pauline from Super Mario Odyssey as the reporter in Brooklyn. I was like, oh. Other characters we had once we went to the Kong Kingdom, we had Diddy Kong. I freaked out for that one. You had the girl Kong, not Candy. Or is it Candy? The little girl with the hat. I'm sorry. Donkey Kong fans are yelling at me right now.
Yeah.
She was there. You had Cranky Kong was the king. You had Lanky Kong. I think I saw him. And then I was looking for Funky Kong, and I saw him on one of the Mario Karts. And I was like, yes! Speaking of Donkey Kong. Dixie Kong. Damn it. Thank you very much. So, yeah, she was there, too. Speaking of the Kongs, we got the DK rap from DK.
Donkey Kong.
We didn't get the
but
no,
we didn't. I almost did it.
Yeah. So we had that fun little Easter egg. So they were there. We had Smash Bros references with both, obviously the Mario and Donkey Kong fight, including moves from Super Smash Bros. There was one point Donkey Kong uppercuts Mario. I thought he was almost going to do the windmill wind up. I was like, oh! But he did the little stompy thing with his hands. Mario had a couple drop kicks, slides, etc. Mario, speaking of mobility, he was flipping and dipping like he did in Super Mario World or 3D World. You had different power-ups. You had the Fire Flower, Ice Flower. You had the Tanuki tail. You had the cat suit. You did have the cape. You had the cape in the ad at the very beginning. You had the big mushroom, which actually had him get bigger. You had the small mushroom or the poison mushroom. You had the superstar at the very end in the conclusion of the movie. They didn't have the little spinny workman hat thing or the propeller hat. So you had those there. Other video game references as you got to the Mushroom Kingdom, and this was a scene that they kind of released early. There's an antique shop, and they're selling Nintendo or Super Nintendo cartridges. Thank you. And the little toads are like, "Are you sure this works?" And the salesman's like, "Oh yeah, you got to blow on it." I just got a kick out of that. In the real world, Mario had a Super Nintendo and was playing... That was the other game. He was playing Pit... No, not Pitfall. The game Pit is from... Oh, crap. I don't remember. But he was playing that. What other... There was another... Toad's Treasure Trove or Treasure Track. I think they made reference to that with Toad distracting the palace guards by making food for them. What else is there? I guess if we want to skip ahead to post-credit scenes, they did have a Yoshi. We didn't see the Yoshi, but we saw at the wedding, which is also, I guess, a reference to maybe Galaxy. I don't know. I never played Galaxy. Bowser and Peach in their wedding outfits. But someone brought a Yoshi egg as a gift to the wedding and gave them there.
I liked when they just had their full Mario Kart. section of the movie.
Yeah, they went hard on Mario Kart, which
cool.
we saw in the second trailer, Rainbow Road being revealed, and them in the Mario Karts. Peach got her bike. But yeah, the Kongs are apparently fans of the Fast and Furious and build all the cars. But yeah, as Lady alluded to, they went hard with Mario Kart, where they're like, okay, you guys got to make your cars so we can go save the day. And they have the little cycle wheel of like, pick your wheels, pick your body. Like they had all that. They had the gliders, they had the drift, and they showed he got boost from the drift. They threw items at each other. Shells were bouncing all over. We had a suicidal turtle become a blue shell.
It was so cool.
Yeah. Other video game references we had at the wedding. We had King Babam there from 64. We had King Boo there, which was the only Boo I believe we saw in this movie.
I think so.
I thought we were gonna get more with the Luigi's Mansion tease at the beginning, but instead he had the dry bones and the shy guys he dealt with. We at the conclusion of the film, you had Luigi and Mario flinging Bowser around by his tail. Yeah. We didn't get any, so long, Bowser, or anything like that. I was hoping for that, but no. So yeah, just a plethora of video game references, which it's a video game movie, but that was cool to see. Yeah, I think all the characters were fun. It was entertaining. Seeing everybody being goofy. Toad just like, I'm with you, like Samwise just the whole time.
Yeah, that was there was any story context lacking for that. He was just like, we're going on an adventure now.
He's my best friend. Yeah,
I'll die for you.
Yeah. After we just popped out of a pipe.
Man that I just found in the mushroom forest and have no story.
Yeah.
So that was a.
Yeah. I'm sure there's other references that maybe didn't connect, or I at least didn't get. Like, they had this. They had this rival at the beginning, so they had their. I talked about, or I alluded to Chris Pratt's voice work. So a lot of people, rightfully so, were judgmental when he got cast of like, are you going to do a fake Italian accent, whatever? And he kind of has it in the film. That's why I would say is like, it's okay.
Yeah, they more do like a New York kind of.
Right. Which makes sense. Not to be super offensive or whatever, But at the very beginning of the film, they play into the whole, we're plumbers and that's our advertisement. They went full on Italian and I really appreciated it. But then, hearing them go back to normal, I was like, oh, okay. But yeah, they referenced the old game there. And like I said, they had the super capes. So after you see their advertisement for their plumbing company, they had some rival which they used to work with named Spike. Now, I know a Spike from the Super Mario games, so he's that little green dinosaur guy. Yeah. I don't know who this guy was supposed to be at all. So that's a reference that went over our heads. I'm surprised they didn't have any... Well, maybe they did. They didn't have any cake building references. Because there's that game you had to run down and catch the cakes before you delivered them.
Yep.
Or the crabs.
Oh, yeah.
As you're like, they would come out of the pipes and stuff and do that. They didn't have that. Trying to think of what else. We did see bloopers. They were cute. We did see the fish a few times. I don't know, just a plethora of references in this movie, which once again just adds that layer to the people who have obviously grown up with the games or played the games. It's just that additive kind of, okay, stay with me here, kind of like the MCU where you're like, oh, I know that, it's just fan service, I guess you could say, in a way, but it made it more fun of just like seeing the world and seeing what was there. The item,
I feel like this movie was very heavily fan service.
Yes.
Very heavy-handed fan service, which I enjoyed. Being a Mario fan, I enjoyed, but like, there's not a lot left to enjoy, I guess, if you don't have any context for, like, if you never played the game. It's like kind of a okay story that you can watch, but like, I I feel like your enjoyment would be way less.
Sure. Yes.
In comparison, all of these references.
Yes, in comparison to the person who knows all these things and is getting rewarded, yeah, you're gonna have a lesser, experience just because. Well, obviously you don't know that stuff, and yeah, the story's not astronomical. It's very basic. They fall into a mysterious world. He's motivated to save his brother. Love interests, trials, tribulations of a hero. We have the rise where we're going to be conquering, or, seems like we're going to. Then we have the big deficit, and then we have the heartfelt moment, and they come back. Like, it's very simple storytelling. There's nothing wrong with it. But, it's, yeah, like you mentioned earlier, critically, it's not anything that's new or is going to break the bank where you're like, you need to see this movie. It does what it sets out to do of rewarding video game fans and checking the box of a quote-unquote children's movie. I'll be excited to see where they go from here. They did have 2 post-credits where one, Bowser was singing his Peaches song again, and then the second one, like we alluded to, was the Yoshi egg, which is in Brooklyn for some reason, and it started to hatch.
Through the portal with the rest of them.
So I'm curious why.
Oh, they had the bullet bills. Did you say they had bullet bills?
Oh, they did have bullet bills. No, I didn't say that.
Sorry.
No, you're good.
Yoshi movie next.
Yeah.
Yoshi movie next.
I'm just curious why they decided to put the Yoshi in Brooklyn. Like, why is the Yoshi in the real world and not in Mushroom Kingdom? Yeah, but like, what story-wise are you going to tell there? Yeah, like, I could get it if the next movie, it's like Super Mario World, where, he's riding around on Yoshi's back, and then we get like that Smash Bros. Cutscene opening of all the Yoshis running down on Yoshi Island or whatever the hell, but it just, the placement of it was weird. Like, what I talked to Lady about on the way home was like, oh, I thought they were going to allude to somebody else, like the next villain. Mm-hmm. So my thinking, because they kind of like, before they show the Yoshi egg, they are going through the sewers of Brooklyn, and they're going to seemingly where the pipe was to get to Mushroom Kingdom. I thought they were going to show us Wario and Waluigi, and they were going to be like also from Brooklyn, like rival, similar to Spike, or like jealous, and be like, hatch an evil plan, or like, oh, we're alluding that we're going there to sabotage them because we'll put some backstory in there where they slapped each other's mom or something like that. But we didn't get that, so I'll be interested to see where the story goes from here.
They are making a ton of money, so I assume there will be more. Yeah,
which, I mean, once again, congratulations to Illumination. They do a great job with the animation that they do. And I'll be excited to see what's next. Some things I wish we saw. We saw at the end Bowser got shrunk down due to the poison mushroom. We didn't see Bowser Jr. We saw his little helicopter thingy in the prison. Yeah. But we didn't see him at all. We didn't see any of the Koopa kids. I thought we would see them. We got allusions to the little castles, the mini ones. We had this very depressed star thing.
I don't know what he was from, but that was my experience.
I thought so. I thought that was going to be alluding to someone, like a Rosalina, because it looked like her star thing.
Yeah.
But didn't get anything with her. Didn't get Daisy.
Nope.
Kind of pissed about that. Didn't get Toadette. Very pissed about that.
Yeah, might be as a Toadette stan.
Yeah. There was something else even before I listed off all these jabronis.
I don't know. He's down bad for Toadette. So.
She's just cute. Oh, crud. What was the thing? Oh. One thing we did get as another cute reference, because Spike was bullying them as kids. We saw Baby Mario and Baby Luigi.
Yeah.
That was a fun little cameo.
That was cute.
So yeah, I'll be interested to see what's next, I assume they're going to have a plan, or at least make a plan of like what they'll do next. Yeah. See where the story goes, see where the sequel goes. Because yeah, it's, once again, it's not anything that's going to scratch your brain and, you know, be like cinematic masterpiece. But it's just something
If you want to see a
fun.
really, really good movie, like film, this is not what you should watch.
No. But if you want to have fun,
It was enjoyable to watch.
you just want to have fun, good time. And like I said, the time commitment's not long at all. Hour and a half.
Yeah.
Yeah. Typical kids movie.
Yeah.
I'm curious, because I haven't seen the Sonics, or the Sanics. I'm curious if those movies have as much references as this did. Granted, that's a live action, a whole nother studio, and God, we remember Nightmare Sonic. Like, I'm curious how those play out, because I've heard good reactions from them. I just haven't given them a fair shake, or actually know where to watch them. But when Knuckles was announced for 2, I was like, ooh, because Knuckles is just a cool character. So I'm excited to check those out and see if they gave, I guess, the love and respect that Illumination did to this comparatively. But yeah, that's Super Mario Bros. I don't know.
I'm enjoying video game adaptations in general.
Yeah?
Like this, I'm enjoying, well, not anymore because it's done, but The Last of Us, excellent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're finally putting out good ones. And by finally, I know we talked about this in another episode, like, why do video game adaptations fail? There's some good ones. I know Mortal Kombat's a cult classic. The most recent Mortal Kombat I really enjoyed it, but that's, again, it was like references. Like, I don't know if that would be the best movie ever. I know Uncharted did okay. I know the old Tomb Raiders with, what's her face? Angelina Jolie were, I don't know. I think that most recent Tomb Raider with the other actress, unfortunately, botched.
Yeah.
There's a whole plethora that we could go through of like, nope, that didn't deliver.
Yeah.
But yes, at least in terms of 23, yeah, Mario did well. Last of Us obviously crushed it.
Yeah.
Yeah, hopefully.
I just hope that means that there can be more.
Yeah.
In the future that are actually not crap.
Sure.
Quality.
Yeah.
That aren't botched. So.
Yeah, and I think the big thing is, what do you call it? Obviously respecting your material. Not that, you know, any of the bad ones didn't. Working together. I can't think of a better word for it. Synergy? Nah, yeah. For some reason I'm thinking it starts with a C, but I can't think of anything. But like for Last of Us, for example, you had the game director, Neil Druckmann, heavily involved. Mm-hmm. For this, Nintendo was most likely, because Nintendo's fucking very protective of their shit, heavily involved. Like, not cooperation. I don't know. I'm going to yell at myself later when I think of it. But you have them working to... Yes! Thank you! You have these teams collaborating, the original source and this new developer, I guess you could say, working together, bouncing ideas off of each other. They have the direction from the original source and obviously have the flexibility to take it their own way because you want to tell a new story. That's great. I don't know if the other adaptations have had that. Like, I know NetherRealm was not involved in the most recent Mortal Kombat, to my knowledge. It's not like Ed Boon was there, you know, like, let's do this, let's do that. So I think that's definitely a plus. I could see how it could be too far in the wrong direction, but I think so far, obviously, you know, the 2 we've gotten this year has been a good move. So, yeah, we'll have to see. All right, well, everybody, this has been another episode of the Wait, What Are We Talking About podcast. My name is Bret, aka Enigma9011, and you can catch this podcast live over on twitch.tv/Enigma9011, usually live every Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern. You join the chat like Papa Griff and Rainbow did today, and Lady. Join in on the conversation, join in on the fun. We'd love to have you in on the chaos, but if you can't catch it live, that is A-OK. Go over to YouTube and podcast services the very next week where it's broken out topic by topic and put as one big video in MP3 for your amusement on the following Friday. Last but not least, any way you can support the show, reviews, comments, shares, whatever it is. It may seem small, but it does help the channel grow, helps the show grow, and we would love and appreciate you for that. Appreciate you guys hanging out today for the wide variety of topics. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for watching, giving this a listen, and we will see you guys on the next one. Take care.